right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Food Trends, episode 3.
Episode 3.
We
We're
made
getting
it.
consistent. We did it.
That's awesome. Today we thought we would talk about kind of an interesting thing that has come up called mono dieting, mono meals, and the mono diet. And maybe you've heard of it. It's one of those things, like everything else, really. It's like a lose weight fast kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. What do we think about the mono diet?
Well, let's tell people what it is.
Yeah.
So, mono means one, obviously. So it's when you eat just one food, either for a meal or for a whole day or for your entire life. Or I don't know. It seems like it's kind of up to the user. I love that huge
Okay.
coffee cup you have. And so I think we've seen people eat only potatoes as a meal or only tofu or only something. And so they eat that. And then I also saw that they will eat like only fruit, like one category of food
Oh,
for
yeah.
a meal. So it's like only fruits for breakfast, only vegetables for lunch, only proteins for dinner. So, like, rather than a mono food, then it's like a category of foods.
Right.
So
So,
I think this is part of the spin-off of Miss Freely Banana Girl. You know about her?
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, where she would eat like 15 bananas a day or only
Right.
bananas or I don't know.
I just,
I think this is part of that whole trend.
well, like, why? My first question is why would you choose potatoes as the one thing? Like, it's not even French fries. I mean, it could be because there's literally no rules. Do whatever you want. But, like, I feel like I'd be thirsty a lot. Just like dry potatoes.
Well, I would assume that the mono meal means you eat the potato and you can't put like butter on it or
Right?
cheese, sour cream or bacon or things that might make the potato taste good.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
So, what are some of the claims, unsubstantiated claims that you're seeing around eating one food at a time?
It's mostly weight loss. It's like this new trendy, like quick thing. Like, okay, restrict your diet, we'll say cauliflower. Eat cauliflower 3 times a day for the next 5 days. Whatever. Can you imagine? Like, I just blah. Um that's the thinking is like you limit it. There's no calorie counting, there's no macro counting, there's no like understanding what nutrients you're getting. So it's like taking the guesswork out of it is what I've seen. Like you don't have to do anything. You just have to know to eat this one thing and like it takes care of itself.
Right. And to the point of it, there is, some evidence that the more boring your diet is, the less you will eat because you're bored, right? So that's why people overeat at buffets,
Sure.
is because there's so much. And so you want to sample all the things. So you end up eating more. Whereas if the only choice you have is potatoes, you're like, I'm over these potatoes
Right.
quickly. So to some extent, yes, it makes it easier to like not think, but also to just get bored with what you're eating and then you stop eating.
For sure. For sure.
So to that extent, there is a benefit. And then I think we talked about something related to food sensitivities, it makes people feel better or something. Like you sent me something about that.
Oh, maybe kind of like an elimination diet, sort of
Mhm.
like I guess if somebody's really struggling and they're like only eating potatoes, hopefully all of their symptoms go away and they can add back, the butter and the bacon or whatever they're eating. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would be so bored.
So if you want to like apply this theory of weight loss, the boredom theory of weight loss, in a more balanced way. Like you're like, okay, well, that I don't want to think,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to plan, I don't want to like have to spend hours in the kitchen preparing things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind being bored and eating the same thing all the time. Like, what would you say is a better way to go about that?
Wow. That's a good question. You know, as someone who is plant-based, I've just found that that's just it's a lot easier than people make it out to be. I mean, even if you eat meat and animal products, like food has gotten to be this complicated thing when it was meant to do two things, in my opinion: nourish our bodies and bring us joy. Okay, so all of this like restrictive stuff obviously doesn't bring you any joy. Um, and if you're eating one thing, that can set you up for a lot of disadvantages. So, and we can talk about that in a minute, like all of the potential cons that go with this. But yeah, I think we just need to get back to the basics, right? Like have have like a list of three ideas that you have for breakfast. If you don't want to like think about it, write it out and be like, oh, bam, like here's what I'm going to eat today. Not just like one thing, but like this bowl of oatmeal or like these overnight oats I made or whatever. And then here's some lunch ideas I can pick from if you're like that, if you're having that much of a struggle with like having to think about it, having to plan, make it really easy on yourself, but like include more than one food.
Right. I think that now what I was thinking, this doesn't really fix the variety issue, but there's so many options now for pre-made foods that
Mm-hmm.
are more balanced and healthier. There's dozens of these sorts of meal delivery kits. And I mean, like my local nutrition shop has like a whole freezer full of macro balanced meals, like that at least have like a piece of chicken and some brown rice and some vegetable, like a little bit more balance to them than just trying to eat one food. And
Yeah.
like, I don't love eating out of little cartons all day, all the time, but you can make things easy and limited thought, like not give it too much thought by using some of these convenience items, um, and adding those into your day. Trader Joe's has a lot of frozen meal options that you don't really have to think about. And maybe they're not some of them aren't the best for like weight loss or whatever, but they have a lot of stuff with vegetables and things like that in it that you can quickly put together, and it would just give you a little bit more nutrition than only eating a potato.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of options if you don't want to think, that are more balanced. Like I think even like I used to work back in the day, and one of my first dietitian jobs was with OptiFast, which is a medically managed
Oh yeah.
weight loss program. It's like shakes. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like those have more vitamins and minerals in them. I don't recommend that, but like than just a potato would, right? Because
Right.
it's medically designed to actually meet the majority of your nutritional needs.
Yeah.
Um, so that's not a program that I necessarily recommend, but like I feel like even that would be better than this eat only bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, I mean, so like what are some of the cons of doing this? Like obviously the nutrition piece, if it's like a long-term thing. I mean, you're not going to be malnourished after a day of doing this, but um, if you're doing it for a week or two, like a potato doesn't have every vitamin and mineral that you need. It doesn't have fat in it, doesn't have a lot of protein in it. Um, you're just kind of setting yourself up to be lacking in a lot of areas. And it's not something that you can just be like, oh, I'll take a multivitamin and fix that. Like it's not gonna work.
I was actually going to ask you that because I have had people come in when I used to work as an outpatient dietitian and be like, "Well, I only eat this. I'll just take a multivitamin and it'll be fine."
Right.
That's just not. While multivitamin is designed to like cover, those essential nutrients that we need, like from the RDA, food has way more than that in
Yeah.
terms of like the antioxidants and the polyphenols and all of these things that can't really be put into a multivitamin in the same way, that you're missing out on when you're not eating a variety of foods.
Right. And it's like it's one thing to make everything about weight loss or like filling in the gaps of nutrients. It's like we have to start thinking more forward with our food. Like, yes, it's nourishing us, but also, are we preventing disease doing this? Like, what am I eating that has those antioxidants and fiber and things that you mentioned? Because it's more than just checking off a box. It's like fueling your life, it's like lowering your risk of developing all of these conditions that are, you know, highly preventable a lot of the time.
And then I think that if you do restrict your diet so much to where, you can only eat a handful of foods, eventually you're going to give up. At least I would. I'd be like, screw these potatoes.
For sure.
Send me to the drive-through, right? I think I could last like 2 or 3 days, and then I'd be like, screw this. Like, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Really setting yourself up for failure, inevitable failure, um, by doing something like that, because it doesn't nourish you. It doesn't give you anything, and then you're going to be hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when somebody's on a trendy like diet like this where they're restricting so much, it's like a mental struggle of like, I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have to do this and I'm just gonna keep doing it, like the willpower thing. And I think that that is just a huge disservice to just public health. You can set people up to become um, just really obsessed with calories and weight and their body, and disordered eating can start happening, and just disconnecting us further from the actual intentions of the food that we eat, and putting us in this mindset of like, I'm only eating um for weight loss or to like whatever. It's just, it's a bummer. I don't like it at all.
I just I find it so interesting how there's a whole like area of health and wellness that just requires so much restriction and so much like, oh, it can only be these few foods, or avoiding this food or avoiding that food, or like limiting it down to this. Whereas as dietitians, like I feel like we learned that the more variety, the better, the more, things you enjoy, the better. And like that's how to actually be healthy. So it's just like kind of the opposite of what I believe is good, solid nutrition and a healthy diet. So it's just interesting. And the mono meals just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you had to pick one food, what would it be? Or a food category, we'll say.
I mean, there's few things that obviously come to mind immediately, but it's not one food. I feel like
Right.
I'm a pasta person.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to eat pasta. But I feel like bread, cheese, and wine, like
Yeah.
that's none of that has any nutritional value. I mean, I'm fine eating vegetables, but like I definitely wouldn't pick a vegetable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
Um, yeah, like I really like pizza. I really like a big old veggie burger with like lots of stuff on it.
Mm.
I could eat guacamole, but of course, like if I'm doing it for weight loss, that's probably not the best option. Like 300 grams of fat a day. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, but guacamole is more than one food.
Right, that's true. That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do like tomatoes. My 5-year-old eats tomatoes like it's his job.
No.
We get the big thing from Costco, the big cherry
Yeah.
tomato thing. I'll come down and he'll like literally have it on his lap, just eating tomato.
That's awesome.
So mono meal for Miles is cherry tomatoes.
For breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I love tomatoes too. They're also one of my favorite foods, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I say food trend, mono meals, don't do it.
We give it an F.
An
F
F,
rating.
not approved by us.
Negative stars. Great.
All right. Well, this was fun. And I will see you at our next episode of Food Trends.
Awesome.
Come
Bye.
over and follow us on Instagram. We are on the Food Trends blog. So we would appreciate a follow.
See you there.
All right. Bye.